Yo, what up? This is Dark, and here's a Mythic Plus guide to the Rookery. When making these guides, I'm hoping to help people who are getting into Mythic Plus, as well as anyone who's still struggling with the mechanics. So when you're in that pug environment, you can be an asset to the party instead of being the reason you fail the keys. And for anyone interested in trying out tanking and understanding the routing, here's a basic route of what I do when I'm just pugging. Like and subscribe if this helped you at all. Alright, so in the first area here, the very first pull, you're going to have this mini boss quartermaster dude. He's got a frontal cone that he'll shoot out 3 purple void balls that will come back to his location, so make sure you're not standing in the way of those balls or in front of the frontal. Then he'll cast a shield that will reflect and block melee and range attacks, so make sure you hit him in the backside when he has that shield up. And then when you fly the griffins over to the other area, you have to deal with the thunders and the rook guards who can lightning infuse themselves. This is a dispellable buff, so make sure you're taking that off of them. And the thunders also cast lightning bolts, so kick these as much as you can. Then you got the rook tender dudes who are gonna enrage the storm rooks that are in the area. So when they're enraged, soothe those guys. As for the storm rooks themselves, they have a single target ability that will just be casted on one player, so make sure you're topping off that player when they're getting beamed. Then you got the void riders who are gonna cast localized storm, which is huge AoE damage that's unavoidable, so make sure you're popping CDs for this. And then they'll do wild lightning, which are frontal lines of blue circles that will go everywhere. Just make sure you're not standing in the blue circles. First boss, Kyrioss here. So at the beginning of this fight, he'll always do crashing thunder, which is going to be AoE circles around every single player, so make sure you're spreading out for this. Then he'll cast wild lightning, and this is just like the other cast. It's going to be blue circles all over the place, so make sure you're not standing in those blue circles. And then when he gets to 100 energy, he'll fly into the middle of the arena, and he'll start casting lightning torrent, and this is going to be indicated by the 4 balls that he's going to form around him. And it's going to shoot out beams from those balls, and he'll either rotate left or right slowly. And these beams have a pretty big hitbox, so make sure you're not standing even close to them. Just make sure you're clearly in the middle of 2 of those beams. More wild lightning will be casting as you're running around. And then when he's done with his channeling up there in the middle, he'll fly back down with lightning dash with a big blue circle on the ground. Just make sure you're not in that circle, and then from there it's just rinse and repeat. After you beat the first boss, you want to drop down and grab one of these feathers. This will allow you to fall slowly and safely through the hole. And then down here you can also save these griffin babies and get a buff from them. So on your way to the second boss, you're going to have more rook guards that will have the lightning infuse ability, so dispel that. And then you'll have these void diffusers that will use attracting shadows, which is a purple circle on their location that will try to draw you in. Well, it's going to explode. Just make sure you're not inside that circle when it explodes. And they also have Arcing Void, which is essentially a chain lightning, so whoever this is cast on, make sure you're getting away from the group so it doesn't bounce around and do more damage than it needs to. And then you're going to have these oracles. They'll do Void Bolt, and you could kick that. And then they have a curse. When the curse is dispelled or expires off of the player, it's going to leave a little purple circle on the ground that will explode, so make sure you're not on top of any of your teammates. Then you'll have these curse crushers that they have a dot they'll put on you, and it's going to be a healing reduction by 2% every 3 seconds, and this will keep stacking until you kill them. And then they have Void Crush, which they'll target one player, put a big purple circle around that player, and they're going to jump on you and do a bunch of damage, so make sure you're not on top of any teammates and you're running out of the group with this. And right before the second boss, you're going to have these non-elite civilian ads that will explode when you kill them, leaving purple circles on the ground. Second boss, Stormguard Gorren. So he has Chaotic Corruption, which is a dot that he'll put on a player, and this dot has 4 charges. It has shadow damage for 5 seconds, and upon expiration, it's going to bounce the nearest player. When it bounces, the player that had the dot is going to get Chaotic Vulnerability, which will increase the damage of the dot by 300% for 10 seconds. So if you had the dot, you want to make sure you're not the nearest person to the next guy who has the dot, because you don't want to bounce back to you, because it will do a crap ton of damage and most likely kill you. And you'll keep dealing with this dot until it runs out of charges, and it will disappear until the boss casts it again. And then for his other ability, Crush Reality, he's going to target a player. He'll slam at that player's location, leaving a puddle of void. And then when he slams on the ground, it's going to shoot out pillars from the spot that he slammed at, so make sure you're not getting hit by any of these pillars that shoot out. And then he'll have Dark Gravity, which is an AoE circle around him that's going to be trying to pull you into that circle and exploding. And if you're in that circle when it explodes, you'll take a crap ton of damage, so make sure you are not in the circle. And for this boss, that's it. You want to just make sure you are managing that dot well. You just don't want it bouncing back to the players who have the vulnerability debuff on them. Okay, so after the second boss is done, you'll go through the hall. You're going to fight a Void Ascendant caster. She's going to have Void Bolt, so you kick that. She's going to have this magic healing absorption dot that's dispellable, so make sure you're dispelling that. And then she's going to have these 4 red balls that will form around her that she's going to shoot out in different directions, so just dodge those. And then after killing that pack, you're going to drop down to the water, and down in this area, you're going to have a crap ton of these civilian non-elite dudes. You're going to have more crushers as well as more ascendants. Then you'll have the big Voidstone dudes that have Void Extraction, which basically they absorb energy from their allies and it makes them do more damage, so don't pull too many guys with these big dudes. Then they'll have a Volatile Void, which is a melee attack that does splash damage, so don't stand on the tank. And then they have Unleashed Darkness, which is a long channel that will shoot purple circles on the ground on each player's location. So make sure you're just moving out of these big purple circles when they're casting this channel. All right, the final boss, Voidstone Monstrosity up in here. So for the tanks, he'll do Oblivion Wave, which is a huge line frontal, so don't stand on the tank or behind the tank. It's going to shoot out behind them. And then he'll cast Unleash Corruption, which is a dot that's going to go on a couple players. Upon expiration, this dot's going to leave puddles on those players' locations. So make sure you're running on the outside of the boss arena here so the puddles are not in the fight. And this boss also has a shield around him, and when the shield gets broken, he'll get stunned and take increased damage. So this is the time to lust when he breaks that shield. And when the boss does null upheaval, there's going to be a crap ton of purple circles all over the place. Do not stand on these. At the same time, there's going to be 3 crystal shards that will spawn on the ground, and 3 players will get circles around them. Each player with one of these circles needs to go to a crystal, so upon expiration of your dot, you can destroy the crystal. And otherwise, if you don't, it will spawn an ad that will be annoying. It will make the fight messy and possibly wipe you. And that's it for this guy. Just remember, when you break that shield, that's when you want to be popping all your cooldowns and putting all the damage into the boss, and you just break his ass down and kill him, dude. Know what I'm saying, dude? Woo!